So, we've learned a bit more about the music from season 1, and we also saw Alex talk about how he made What Could Have Been with Sting, which was really, really cool. And now there's another video that Alex made, which is the making of Goodbye and Guns for Hire. So I'm also going to take a look at that while I'm here, and then let's carry on with the music from season 2.
Yeah, so it's November right now. It's kind of like 2 years since Arcane season 1 came out. And I had made this video that I was really psyched about for What Could Have Been, the song with Sting. People were asking for some more, and we've just been so busy working on season 2, I never really got a chance to talk about some of these other ones. For some reason, as fate would have it, at each end of every 3 episodes, we'd have a big song moment, and all of those songs are like depressing as hell. Those were 3 of my babies, those little songs, and What Could Have Been was the last one. So I just think it's kind of fun to pair up with What Could Have Been 2 of the other songs that were very emotionally intense and involved. The first of which is Goodbye, which is the end of episode 3, kind of the most soul-crushing moment in the season.
It's okay. I'll show them.
I have to pause it just to talk about this thing, because this was the minute that we saw that flashback scene between Felicia. I'm still not sure if it's Felicia or however Vi and Powder's mum's name is supposed to be pronounced, so forgive me. But I'm going to go with Felicia and Vanda and Silco, and we saw that flashback where she tells them that she's pregnant with Vi. Knowing that both Vanda and Silco were close to the girl's mother long before they were ever born, and then knowing what happens here where Powder is taken under Silco's wing and he sort of raises her. There's something about this that's like, at the time you process it as sort of like, okay, at least she's going to be taken care of by someone, you know? And then the more this progresses, the more you look back on it, you realise how odd this is. Because at the time you're just like, okay, let's just see how this plays out. But then as it goes on, and now after that flashback, there's a whole different feeling I have towards this. I said this, but I might have to go back and watch the show again. Like, I genuinely, especially those first 3 episodes, because if you know my reaction videos, they were short. My first reaction episode ever was 16 minutes long. The last one was 1 hour and 30 minutes. So I may have to go back and just reanalyze everything, because there was a lot I probably missed too.
I'll show them. We will show them all.
I'm sorry, I'm going to pause it again because I've just noticed something. It almost looks like he's wearing wrist straps, a bit like Vanda did, look.
We will show them all.
Doesn't that look almost like Vanda's wrist straps? A bit like what Vi is wearing at the end. You notice that? That's an interesting detail. It's not, it's probably just a design choice, but it looks interesting. I've got a feeling in 10 years I'll be looking at things from the show and being like, huh, that showed up, that's interesting.
It was really fun because it was one of the first ones I did as soon as we sort of flicked online. Is like,
and you realise as well that's Savika, isn't it? Of course it is. Yes, it is Savika, isn't it? That is Savika that's being carried there, because that's her arm that she ends up losing, isn't it? Sorry, I'll carry on, I promise. I'll go. Sorry.
Was like, line is like, let's make songs for this show too. Christian, our showrunner, was like, we need one for the end of this sequence. He brought me into a room with Alex Temple, and they both played me the final scene of this episode, and it was upsetting to watch. There was something about it that, like, I don't know, it like really bothered me watching Powder and Vi in this last sequence, and I was kind of like, I kind of didn't open this scene for a long time. Like, it was like a little bit like, I don't really want to think about this or live in this right now. And then I got a little help by just digging through my hard drive. The very first thing I ever wrote for Riot that was a song 7 years ago was this music video concept, and it was just a beautiful story of these 2 brothers getting torn apart kind of by like circumstances outside of their control, but they grew up together. This music video concept, and it was just a beautiful story of these 2 brothers getting torn apart kind of by like circumstances outside of their control, but they...
Why does that sound like an ode to like Vanda and Silva, even though they weren't actual brothers, but you know what I mean? Like, the symmetry of that is so ironic.
Grew up together.
Sorry.
Almost perfectly. I tweaked maybe 1 lyric, but otherwise it applied to Powder and Vi as well as it applied to the characters that I wrote it about. And that really helped me kind of get going because I was having a really tough time starting the sequence because of how just like emotional it was. This is where we first invented this thing of like the songs interact with the score in mysterious ways and interesting ways. So the song has this chord progression that kind of repeats over and over again. It's like ever climbing. It has this sense of dread that you get. It has a lot of like really clashy chord tones in it. And that opened up a whole other can of worms, which is like, oh, these days, like the second the credits starts, it skips automatically to the next thing. So we were kind of like, I don't know how much of this song people are even going to hear, but we just want it to lift us from the very final scene of Powder grabbing onto Silco, opening her eye, song starts. And we kind of built that in a little earlier before the credits in the hopes that people would hear like, oh, a song's coming, maybe I'll click to stick around and listen to this thing. I borrowed those chords over here and just put them behind the thing, and it was such a godsend because it worked and it allowed me to start getting first contact with this material.
I only wanted to help. I only wanted to help. I only wanted to help. I only wanted to...
I told you to stay away.
Please, please.
I told you to stay away!
No. Why did you leave me?
Because you're a jinx. Do you hear me? Milo was right.
No.
God, that scene is so unbearable to watch, and it's like, it was hard to watch at the time, but it's even harder to watch now after seeing the whole show. Do you not think? There's something about the way Vi hits her there, and it's just... I've seen, like, as well, some people hating on Vi. Do you know what Vi has been through? The way some people were like, Vi was abusive. She made Jinx, not Silco. Do you know what Vi has gone through in her life? You cannot blame Vi for this, but I can understand, like, the way... But she, in this moment, she's so filled with rage. The fire in the background as well is just a great ode to it. Like that, like the flickering of the embers, like the sort of crackling noise where you can feel everything boiling up, is just a really brilliant detail that helps seal all this.
Away!
No. Why did you leave me?
Because you're a jinx. Do you hear me? Milo was right.
No. No. Please.
I've just realised that she calls her Violet and not Vi. I'd never clocked onto that, but it makes, like, it hits a lot harder when you realise Caitlin at the end calls her Violet. I'm gonna have to watch this show again. Ah. I know what he means about that chord progression. It's an easy to listen to progression, but it always sounds like it's transcending up. You know those, I don't know what it's called, there's actually a name for it in terms of like music theory, but I don't know what it's called, where it kind of overlays like this and then it just kind of keeps going. And it's like an infinite loop. It always sounds like it's going up. It's not that, but it feels that way.
Hated watching that again. But yeah, so like, we're like, okay, great, this is working. I think it's been fun because other people on the internet have pointed out that like that chord progression is a motif that we use throughout the score, which is true. Like we find some of these themes. Alex Temple invented a lot of them, but this is kind of one of the motives that we were able to kind of use as this thing progresses throughout the season in different moments, including the other song we're going to talk about, Guns for Hire. So
Okay.
like, the score was doing its thing, and then we came back to the song, and at that point we're like, great, who's going to sing this thing? Christian, he'll pull out these things from his back pocket. He's like, Ramsey is Powder. Like, for him, some of these artists, they kind of actually, like, represent the characters. It was fun hearing him talk about Snakes, the Paris song, because he was like, Paris is like Vi. And you're like, oh, yeah, like, the vibes, just the energies are really cool and similar. And so Ramsey was Powder to him in this moment as she's kind of, like, heads down the path of darkness, and Ramsey was a joy to work with. She sounded so good.
You can hear the sound of a heartbeat before it goes out. Won't never leave my memory of bloodshed all around.
Like, she's down there doing what that needs to do in a really evocative way, and then she can... And it's just like she's so broken. It just, you feel like you're listening to Powder in those moments. So like that was just so in the pocket for us. And then she's got this other gear she can shift into.
Oh, that little like crunchiness in the back. I'd never noticed that. Where it sounds like her voice is breaking.
Shift into. It was everything that like...
I hadn't noticed that. It sounded more like it was just more of like a clear sounding vocal, but there's like this other bit behind where it just sounds like it's like crackling, a bit like the fire. Kind of, it's like mimicking that noise. I hadn't noticed that before.
Song enters.
I can hear the sound.
Fortiche had done this really cool thing, which was like this shot pans out and starts tilting in this surreal way.
Won't never leave my memory. With bloodshed all around. How could I have ever let you down?
It was kind of this like start very quiet and just gradually get all the way to be this massive thing with nothing really like reprising. And it was all anchored on this hypnotic chord progression that just keeps building and building and building, and just every time it repeats, a clump of something else joins in, and Ramsey gets a little bit more upset. And I just wanted it to be this kind of mesmerizing thing that just fans out and then ends. And that was goodbye. Yeah.
Like I say, my earliest reactions, because I was so new to doing reaction videos, I didn't do them as thoroughly as I think I'd like to have. Now looking back on it, especially knowing that I was just, when I was doing research about YouTube and how to possibly do a reaction channel, like every video I ever looked at was basically saying like, keep things sharp, don't go on too long, you want to keep people, you know, engaged and keep people retentive. So I was just like, okay, well no one's going to want to watch me for longer than 15 minutes, so let's do that. And now looking at it for a show like Arcane, you can't whittle it down to 15 minutes. I think I would have noticed a lot more of this in those earlier episodes. I think I overlooked them a lot, to be honest with you. Like season 1, act 1, you realise how heavy it was as things went on. Like I wasn't familiar enough with the show. And also as well, like these are my first reaction videos. So I'm also very self-conscious. I'm on camera and stuff. I've got a bit more comfortable with it now. But like back in those earlier days, like it was a lot for me to try and do is process the episode and, you know, look at all the music and the cinematography and stuff all in one go.
Guns for Hire, episode 6.
Flare.
This is probably one of my favorite songs I've ever like worked on. I'm
pretty sure this is like the Jinx Flare video, right? Like the section where she lights up the blue flare. I'm pretty sure it is.
I had such a profoundly fun experience kind of discovering this one, and then also just personally, like I leveled up in a lot of ways on this one, and sort of like broke down a couple personal barriers that I had sort of like set up as like, you can never do this in a song, and then just like being like, oh yeah, you can, like just have fun with it. This was one song where I had sketched a couple things that ultimately like weren't right, and that was because I was sort of a little nervous. I think this was the second song I had worked on, so it was all pretty new. And what our animation team at Fortiche do is they'll send us the early animatic for the episode, and they put temp music behind it, so it'll be like placeholder music that they can use to help edit around the story beats. Something very dramatic is going on, so you hear The Dark Knight or something like that. And
it's really interesting. Sorry to interrupt in there, but that's really interesting knowing that they'll play other cinematic songs or whatever in the background. I wonder how that ends up shaping the look of it. Like, surely that must have an effect. If you're working to another piece of music, it must have an effect on the overall product, no? Surely, to an extent, that will affect the stylization a little bit. Even a couple of percent, like 1 or 2% of it, surely that will have an effect to a degree.
Something like that. And we need to make music that makes you feel that way, but obviously the goal is not to copy that music. You want to find your own voice through it. And so that's the reality that film composers live with, but they did the same thing for the songs in the show. They'd put up actual artists' music in here just to like help them get a vibe. And they always put up great songs, so it's really challenging because you're like, oh crap, I have to live up to, in this case, 9 Inch Nails. My first instinct out of a little bit of fear was like, all right, I gotta make something that sounds like this. This is the first idea I had.
Castle of cards, musical chairs, I swear it's awfully quiet.
So like I gave him that, and I gave him a little bit of this.
Oh, that isn't, because that takes away from the entirety of the emotion from that scene, doesn't it? That kills it flat completely. That's way too intense for that kind of. I wasn't expecting that. Okay. Do you know what I mean, though? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's way too intense for that scene. Like, it's amazing how that just has completely changed the tone of that.
You know, like this super angsty 9 Inch Nails-y sort of thing with other stuff in there, and the 9 Inch Nails song has a big na-na-na section, so I was like, okay, therefore I need to do a big na-na-na section. You know, just things where you're like, I just want somebody to like this and for this to work because I feel insecure. And Chris was lovely. He was just like, cool, I like that. He's like, nice. I like this walls came tumbling down thing. It was just sort of like a Walls of Jericho, like biblical reference that I had going. Because the story in this one is interesting. I don't know if people think of this song as a Silco song because that shot of Jinx lighting the flare is so iconic looking that I think people kind of go like, this is that big Jinx moment where she, you know, like this is what everybody thinks about, and this is the moment of the song. I mean, this is when the song starts. But what Christian had really thought of is like, this is Silco's kind of villain song here. This is when he's losing his control of everything. Like,
oh, that is interesting. See, even I did it, right? Even I was like, I think this is the Jinx flare scene, and it's not. It was its original intention was to be more linked to Silco. Okay, that changes my mind about it a lot.
Villain song here. This is when he's losing his control of everything. Like the first 5 episodes, he's got this tightly woven plan, and he's like executing it really well. And then this is when Jinx has been with him for a couple of years, and now he's losing control of her. He's losing control of his grip on everything else. And so this is just like it's all slipping and tumbling right before your very eyes. I can't even really tell you what got me going here, but
That is interesting. Because even I just then said, oh, when Jinx lights the flare, knowing this song is more of an ode to Silco's loss of control, I saw it more as a song that's looking towards the idea of Jinx's rebellion and trying to find Vi again, almost. But it's not, it's almost oding Silco's loss of control as opposed to focusing on Jinx. Okay.
Very odd. One for me, because I think like as a person that writes pop songs, I had sort of walled myself in as like pop music has a basic chord language. It can't wander too much. The structure is very sanctimonious and it has to have very catchy things and it has to have drums and all this kind of stuff. And with this one, I just wandered. It was almost like I was kind of like half being a film composer and half being a songwriter while I was making it. It runs a little long, but I'll just play some of this because it's kind of fun to listen to.
Oh, the die your turn to roll before they fall through your fingers. Not a good night to lose control, right as the earth is unraveling. You play with your blocks until they break and these walls come tumbling down.
It really does seem like a song from Silco's perspective, or highlighting what he's going through instead, actually, yeah. Because, of course, it's the scene where Vi punches and knocks down the, like, you know, the bright fluorescent eye, the purple eye, and then Silco has that sort of chaotic breakdown. It is more about him than it is Jinx, and I've always looked at it the other way around. That is interesting. It does actually feel Bond-like, doesn't it? It does feel like a Bond theme.
We're out of time, make your move, live or die while the fuse is lit and there's no turning back. Kiss your perfect day goodbye, because the world is on fire. Tuck your innocence goodnight.
See that, because it gives me goosebumps even now. You expect it to go up. When it says good night, you expect it to go like good night and go up, and it doesn't. It sort of goes down.
Tuck your innocence goodnight.
You know what I mean?
You sold your friends like guns for hire.
It's also, I've never really noticed that, is Jinx has got the blue flare. Silco's standing under that purple light. And obviously Vi is the colour, I mean violet, sure, like the idea of like violet light is coming down on him and crashing him. But if you look at it this way, it's like Jinx is blue, yeah, Vi is pink, her hair's pink, right? So the colours of Vi have always been very pink. She's violet, obviously, but she's pink. And Silco's stuck in purple light. Right? It's almost like the blue is turning on him and the pink, and that's why I've never really put that together either. Oh, this show, man.
Yeah, like it's just kind of weird. Like I never really wrote anything like that before. I'm just gonna hop on the piano for a second. Oh shit, my fault. And it's, you know, it kind of goes all over the place. This is your perfect day goodbye, before the world is on fire. Tuck your innocence goodnight. You saw your friends like guns for hire. Go play with your bloods, and now you'll pay in these wars. Don't tumbling down. Like it was just so much fun because I was like, I never get to use these chords in songs because I told myself you're not supposed to, and that was just such a blast to do. I had so much fun, and I think it unlocked something brand new for me that I've been living in ever since, which is just like a lot of these rules that you think you create are just wide open to be trampled on, and you end up with more interesting material when you like really start to blend different influences and styles together. So
I think that is interesting though from a creative standpoint, because Arcane seems to break a lot of rules. I remember watching the Bridging the Rift when they spoke about the blend of 2D and 3D animation. They're like, you know, that's new. It's not something traditionally that people like to do, is blend 2D and 3D and kind of mix it up. It seems like the music's perfect for Arcane anyway, because it does not fit, right? It does this additional stuff that usually shows like this don't do. It almost adds this extra element of like rogueness or rebellion to it that just works even well given the context of the show, you know?
wide open to be trampled on, and you end up with more interesting material when you like really start to blend different influences and styles together. So from here, we were like, great, who's gonna sing it and how's it gonna lay into picture? The next part of this I could have never predicted, which is getting Woodkid on this thing, because he is without a doubt one of my favorite artists of all time anyway. I was listening to his music probably since like 2012 or so. I remember me and Logan were playing Coachella, and he was also playing Coachella.
Me and Logan were playing Coachella. Just the way you said that so like just casually, like so like, oh, we were playing Coachella.
Oh, I remember me and Logan were playing Coachella, and he was also playing Coachella. This might be 2014. I'm bad with years. I remember seeing him back in the artist area, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta go say hello. I mean, I was so nervous, so I was just like, hey, great set. And he was like, thanks, man. Like, it was a very normal conversation, but I was like, oh my God, I just got to talk to Woodkid. And so fast forward to now, we found out that Woodkid, who's obviously French, our animation studio is based in Paris. What we didn't realize was Woodkid went to school growing up with some of the head directors at Fortiche. And if you follow Woodkid, you know that not only is he like an incredible artist, but like his filmmaking chops and his videos and his art, he's weaving all of that stuff together. He's one of the most talented people I've met because he's like an expert in so many disciplines. We found out he knew Arcane, he knew Fortiche, he was down to boogie with us. He heard this little demo here and he was like, cool, that's the one, let me do that. And we were like, oh my God, really? Send it to him. He's not only a fabulous singer, but his production is bar none, like some of my favorite. I sent him this and then he sent us back like, what is the final? It was crazy. Like normally we're very involved in like, okay, thank you for doing this vocal, let's start working on the track, and we're just so in, and he's so good that he was just like, here's a thing, and I was like, that's way better than what I would have ever done, and it's practically done. So we're like, great, we have this wonderful song with my favorite artist of all time, now let's put it to picture. When Jinx lights the beacon, we get a lot of run time. It's like a perfect amount of time for us to loop the chorus twice, so this was a fairly friendly experience kind of getting it on screen. The part that was kind of interesting is that Alex Temple thought, let's replace the cue we had written before the song and start to weave in, which actually was kind of tricky. I'll show you a little bit of that. This is when Vi and Silko meet for the first time and have this kind of encounter.
Banter's prodigy. I regretted that we've never had the opportunity to speak.
Sorry, I'm just playing the thing now, enjoying it. But you get the idea. When we had, I had scored the cue this one, and then when we discovered if you just plop Woodkid's song in right when the flare gets linked, it's a little bit like over the top, like, whoa, okay, I guess there's a song now. We wanted to warm the ear up to a vocal, which is pretty tricky because this is a super dialogue heavy scene. That was more of just like us kind of taking the stems and doing a little bit of our own work with it. Oh yeah, Woodkid made all this stuff too. He even made our job easy on the scoring side. He made these like sound blasts for when the whole water tower gets kicked over. Like, you didn't have to do that, man. Like, he gave us these sounds and was like, that's way better than anything I could do. And it was just like, oh, God, he's the best. I mean, this is why we love him so much. Probably one of the easiest Arcane collaborators on planet Earth. And it was a joy to get to know him. I mean, now we're friends, and it's just very lovely to be, like, able to enjoy his beautiful work and text him and be like, you're amazing. Like, keep doing what you're doing. So, you know, hopefully we get to do more things.
Again, that's just such a brilliant detail of Milo and Clagger showing up as well. And Milo in pain, of course, which is just like... got goosebumps. Can I just say, is there a reflection in the bullet then? Yeah, it is. Look, I've never even noticed that. There's an enforcer reflection in the bullet. I've got to re-react to the entirety of Arcane. There's even just then, there's like the way the eye is still in an eye shape on the floor, the way these lights look like two eyes, and the one on the right comes up first. It's like Silko's left eye doesn't turn on, look. And as the left eye lights up, then you see Marcus's silhouette. The layers of this show, you'd have to watch it like 3 or 4 times. I've been seeing like Arcane reactions where they do like 3 episodes in one. I don't understand how you could ever absorb a show in such a little amount of time. I don't get it. It is just mental though, how well intertwined everything is in regards to the music. I really think I might have to go back and watch this show again, you know. I might just have to. Anyway, I'm going to carry on and react to some music from season 2 now, and actually just delve into that a hell of a lot more. If you did enjoy this, give it a thumbs up, it really helps out the channel. Like I say, some returning viewers are actually not subscribed, so you may think you are and you might not be. Just take a look, and if you aren't, click subscribe, turn the notifications on, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.